Wrong Turn is the 2021 remake of 2003's Wrong Turn, and it's not what you expect. So I gotta get this out the way. If you haven't experienced the original or this remake, you can watch this video just fine. But if you have seen the original, but not this remake, I actually discourage you from watching this video. Not because this video is full of big spoilers, because it's not. It's just best that you go into this film entirely blind, like I did. I'm not going to tell you why, just do it. I'm serious. It doesn't matter if you like the original or not. If you've at least seen it, don't watch this video, just see this remake. And I hope you can appreciate my integrity when I say that, because I'm not doing myself or my channel any favors by telling you not to watch my content. But I have too much respect for you and your film viewing experience to risk ruining it. I want you to have the same trip that I did. I can't tell you if you'll enjoy that trip, but it is worth experiencing for yourself, so just go into this blind. You gone? Cool. So when I was 13, I couldn't wait to watch the original Wrong Turn when it was new. I saw the trailer and it scared me, but when I finally saw the film, I was disappointed. It's a horror film about young people lost in the woods who then face inbred hillbilly cannibals. It was just a throwback to 70s horror schlock, but it didn't really do much to celebrate it or make it stand out. To me, it's just okay, and I have no idea how it spawned so many sequels. So I rented the 2021 remake on Amazon when it was new, simply because I was in the mood to watch a simple-minded horror film. But I didn't get that. I fell for its name and poster. It all looked very much like Wrong Turn. But it wasn't. What I got was something that was so surprising for a remake that I had to give it time, let my thoughts breathe, buy it on Blu-ray, and rewatch it again. I'm now ready to analyze it. So Wrong Turn 2021 tells the story of 6 young friends who go traveling in the woods. They get lost and are soon confronted by some dangerous indigenous mountain dwellers. It all kicks off. So our heroes are very much of our time. A little bit hipstery, but at least they're not dull archetypes. There are no stupid, whiny, overly sexualized party animals just waiting to be killed off. Nah, these guys are friends, and you can feel that. They don't stand out much, and I could have done with some more layers, but at least they had decent chemistry, and I cared about them. One of them is a hothead, making him a bit annoying, but if that's the worst thing I can say about these guys, I'm all for it. Plus, his attitude does play into the story quite well, so it works. Once they go into the woods, the cinematography looks better than expected. This is a well-shot film that shows the beauty of the environment, but also the dangers of how far away they are. It's pretty, but it doesn't make you feel safe. And once you get past a few of those typical lame false jump scares, some truly horrible things begin to happen. The tension ramps up, the second act comes, and we're introduced to the villains. They are not what anyone familiar with this series would expect. I'm not going too deep into them, but I will say this. These villains have their own secret primitive society out in the woods, and they don't take kindly to trespassers. They have their own way of life and are pretty intelligent. And me simply telling you that is not a spoiler. But simply because this has Wrong Turn in the title means that it kind of is. The plot synopsis and trailers have all hidden the villains from you for one specific reason. All of the other Wrong Turn films are about deranged inbred cannibals. This one is not, and its goal is to surprise those familiar with Wrong Turn. Well, it worked. I was more than surprised. Not just because of the lack of cannibalism, but also the cannibals in the original were simple-minded. They just grunted and laughed like maniacs. These villains are complex, they're smart, and they actually challenge you. They made me question my perception of everything I'd seen earlier in the film, and that's a testament to how well they're written. I disagree with them, but I understand their viewpoints. Their logic isn't entirely sound, I will explain later, but at least they actually think and don't just want to murder you at random. I was discombobulated and felt things I never expected to with a Wrong Turn film. I actually paused the film to see if someone made a mistake. Like, did I rent the wrong movie? Or did Amazon post the wrong film and labeled it Wrong Turn by accident? Nope, this is the film. Wow, and I love that sense of discovery. Now, the main antagonist is brought to life by Bill Sage. I knew him from the masterful Mysterious Skin. He played that monster flawlessly, just amazing acting. And he brings that talent here. He's menacing. His formidable voice, his dialogue, his overall persona. You just don't want to get on his bad side. He's like a manifestation of the script. You just never know what he's going to do next. He's so unpredictable. And he just might be the best part of the film for me. Bill Sage, you're a badass, man. I was surprised, humbled, and gripped. So I just sat back and let the film take me on its wild ride. But sadly, from there, some big problems came, and they kept piling up. Let's look at this as a remake and then as a standalone film. So, considering how different this is from the original, I actually thought that the studio was just being disrespectful, using the name of an older film to promote this new film, slapping the title of an older film onto this new film to sell it. But then I found out that, no, this remake was written by Alan B. McElroy, the man who wrote the original and also co-wrote most of the sequels. So it's not disrespectful, he's just reimagined his own film, and he's allowed to. Plus, it's also evident that he's extremely passionate about reimagining it because he pumps so much fresh blood into this. But at the same time, that blood is so fresh that I don't think this should have been called Wrong Turn. Let's say that Wes Craven, R.I.P., remade Nightmare on Elm Street. The fans get excited, but then halfway through the film, they discover that there's no Freddy Krueger or any type of dream-dwelling killer. Instead, there's just a load of drug addicts who commit murder on Elm Street. And then there are some interesting lines of dialogue and statements referring to how people on drugs are treated. That would be unique and interesting, but the fan base would still feel cheated. They have just paid to be lied to, making the backlash justified and even harder to judge the remake on its own merits. That's the case with this Wrong Turn remake. Now, I happen to like being lied to here, but I recognize that I'm not a big fan of the originals, so my feelings don't really count. Plus, I can still step outside of myself and understand the hatred. But even worse is that this lie, this surprise, really isn't that well fleshed out. Let's judge it on its own merits. There's this great scene where, I'll just say our heroes are questioned. And what's great about this is that our heroes have to fight back with brains. It's a battle of morals as well as wit, and both sides make some interesting points. It's great writing. The issue is, our heroes never mention obvious things, such as the falling log, or the fact that their phones went missing. When they find a shed full of items from previous victims, they find phones. It's clearly implying that the villains stole our heroes' phones, but such obvious things are never brought up nor explained. And I like how smart these villains are, but there are some major holes in their logic. These mountain dwellers can venture into the outside world whenever they want, but if an outsider trespasses on their territory, even by accident, they're punished by either execution or being blinded and imprisoned. Not only is it hypocritical, it's illogical. I mean, obviously, but what I mean is, they treat most trespassers that way, yet when they find this other trespasser who's unconscious, they try to help that person in a way that's obviously threatening. That was a great opportunity for some interesting dialogue and conflict, but it didn't happen. And I didn't see these as character flaws. I saw it as the writer not developing these moments because he was more focused on surprising you. And that is the biggest issue with this film. It's so focused on surprising you that it becomes obnoxious and forgets to focus on what matters. I mean, look at these other films with big surprises in their midpoints. From Dusk Till Dawn, Gone Girl, Martyrs, and Cabin in the Woods. They all had these insane reveals, but they were all developed. Wrong Turn does not develop its big reveal. After a rocky but very interesting introduction to our villains, we cut away and stick with this B-plot side character. This father who's looking for his daughter. It's all just a load of exposition for things we've already learnt with the main protagonists. And by being taken away from them, we end up missing so much development for the most important parts. And this is why the rule show don't tell exists. Once things pick up and become interesting, yet again there's no development, because the script tries to surprise you again by turning the third act into Kill Bill in the Woods. It turns into this chaotic action film, and it's crazy. I actually did enjoy this because it was pretty fun stuff and shot very well, but it feels out of place. And how are certain characters able to act like action heroes and kill with great ease? I don't know. I missed 6 weeks of their lives because I got stuck with this B-plot character. And one of the characters gets a case of Stockholm Syndrome and asks, "Can you go back to your old life?" When was that debatable? Why was that debatable? Where did this Stockholm Syndrome element come from? Why is it there? Again, I don't know. I missed 6 weeks of their lives because I got stuck with this B-plot side character. Holy heck, we missed out on so much growth. And it continues. No real spoilers, but we discovered that this little side character has a bit more depth than expected. But it's just another thing that says, "Didn't see that coming, did ya?" Well, no, I didn't. So, it means nothing to the rest of the film. What's the point in all of this? It just keeps on building up, and it's all to keep things fresh. But if we stuck with the central characters and developed that whole situation, it was never going to go stale. And when you consider that this is a remake of a film about primitive, inbred, deranged cannibals, this is even more discombobulating. But at least the randomness works at the very end, at least for me. No spoilers, but it had me grinning ear to ear. I had no idea what I was watching, and I was more than entertained. It wanted to leave a lasting impression, and it certainly did with me. So, in the end, Wrong Turn 2021 really is a box of chocolates. It's all yin and yang. It takes the original's simple premise and replaces it with layers of complex entertainment. But at the same time, it trips up on its wild nature. It doesn't develop much, and it's a shame that it did very little with my expectations after subverting them. The use of source material is deserving of the fan backlash it received, but is also deserving of some praise due to being so original. I would say I like it a little bit more than I don't. I have no idea if I prefer the original or this remake, but I can't really compare them because they're just too different. Such an odd experience, but I'm glad Hollywood allowed this to happen and took some risks. I'm gonna give Wrong Turn 2021 a 5.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay jiggy. The better appreciates you.